All right, so I took out some functionality I had in my Neovim configuration. I packaged it up into a plugin. I thought I might share that today. It's this Ask OpenAI plugin. And basically what this does here, I come over to Vim. And if I jump down to the command line here, if I'd like to know how to do something, I don't remember what the command is. For example, maybe I want to save all my files and then hit Control B in my case. That'll ask OpenAI. You can see I get a response back here with WA, so that'll save everything. Or maybe I want to do something like insert a UUID. I don't know how to do that. Just ask that question and Control B. That'll ask again, go to the API, gets back a response. I could even run it here. You can see it inserts up above. So anytime you're not certain about how to do something, short of searching the docs or going to the web, you can just ask a question if you don't mind getting back a response that may or may not be the best way to do things, but that will probably get the job done. And so I set this up inside of a plugin. So if you'd like to use this, you can. And I also set it up so that if you have a Copilot subscription and you're already using Copilot inside of Neovim, well, then you can just slip this in and you don't even have to provide an API key. It'll just use Copilot using your Copilot account. So everything is free. So in my case, I'm using the Lazy Plugin Manager. If you'd like to see an example of Packer, I put that out in the repo as well. So I've got the repo README here with extensive documentation. I've got examples of what you can do. I then have installation. I've got the Lazy Plugin Manager, which I'll show here in a moment. And then I've also got Packer. And of course, you could adapt this to others as well. And then down below, I have a lot of help on the options that are available. So if I come back over to my config though, so in my case, I've got the plugin referenced here with Lazy. I'm specifying to activate this when I enter the command line for the first time. That way there's no startup overhead for this plugin. And then in my case, I've set the directory. You don't have to do that. I'm doing that so that I can have a development copy checked out that I can work on. And then depending on your plugin manager, you'll have to specify options. And if you just leave this empty, an empty table here in Lua, so I don't even need this right here. This is enough right here. Once you do that then and save that, the next time you reload Vim here, and you come down here, you can ask any question, save all files. Control B here, it'll show using Copilot the first time you run it. If you run that again here, the second time is not going to show using Copilot, it'll just say asking. And of course, if you want to customize this, for example, if you don't want to use Copilot, and one of the reasons for that is I find that it tends to be slow. It seems like they throttle that API. In that case, then I could comment out this configuration, come down here, got another config I can open up here. This one will use OpenAI. Plus, it'll use my keychain. So I'll locate the credentials or API token inside of my macOS keychain in this case. So I'm providing a function here. You can provide anything in this function. You could grab an environment variable if you want. Anything you can do to basically provide the API token, that's what this function does right here. All right, so go ahead and save that then. Restart Vim here. And now watch what happens when I ask a question here. Control B. You can see it said BYOK. You can grab the messages actually to check that. So this is using a function here, a bring your own key function. So that's different from Copilot, so you know it's working then. Or perhaps, if I come up here, comment this out, perhaps I want to jump down here and I want to use Groq instead. First up, I'm picking a different model because Groq is going to have a lot of the open source models like Llama 3.2 here. I then specify a parameter that sets that this is going to use the Groq API. Basically, I hard code the URL for you so you don't have to paste that in here, though you could paste it in as well if you want. You could see, for example, if you want to set the URL for the service or the API, you can provide that instead. And then once you've done that, in this case, I'm also showing you how to use the keychain to get the credentials. You could use something else as well. This is not required for Groq. I can go ahead and save this here. I can then restart Neovim. And now, when I come down here and ask for some help, maybe I want to insert the output of the date command, Control B. There you go. I get back a response, and that was incredibly fast. That's one thing you'll notice when it comes to Groq here. You can see that's correct too if I undo that now. So when it comes to Groq, one of the reasons to use it is it's just incredibly fast. And right now, it's still free to use for development and testing purposes. For high volume users, I believe they have a paid plan, but if you just want to try it out, it's free to use. I've never run into any constraints on limitations. So let me do that one more time here. Just watch how fast that is. Just boom, it's just done. And you know there was a little bit of a lag there the previous two times when you could see the using whatever Copilot or bring your own key. A little more lag in those cases. Copilot, actually, I have several cases where it seems like it took up to 8 or 9 seconds. So this is definitely an improvement over that. And of course, Comment that out here. Scroll down a bit. Instead of using Groq, I could use a local model here. So I'll save this here. So I can use ollama locally, which means I just need to start up ollama. So I'll start up ollama serve here. And then I have models downloaded already, including the 3.2 Vision 11 billion parameter model. You don't need the Vision part, but I believe that's the only one that's available from ollama.com right now in their library. All right, so in this case, I'm going to set the provider as keyless. In other words, it doesn't matter what the key is, and that's because you're running it locally. And then you specify the model again. In this case, I've got that Llama 3.2 11 billion parameter model. And then I set use API for ollama, which behind the scenes just maps to the URL for that, the default URL for ollama. Once I've done that, then I just need to save my configuration. I can then reboot here. And now if I come down here, do something simple like save all files, Control B, you can see it says using keyless. And there you go. I've got a response, and it's an accurate response. And of course, if you want to customize this further, if you have a different API that is OpenAI compliant, you could use that as well. Just provide the URL. You can comment this out here, for example. I can say API_URL instead, provide whatever I like. And that's going to do the exact same thing here. If I were to save that and reboot, that's going to work as well. All right, so once again, here is the plugin repo. Oh, and the options I've covered, I've got those scenarios documented down here as well. For example, here's with Copilot, the default, ollama, macOS with Groq, basically all the ones that I just covered here. Here's an example of using an environment variable instead, using that provider function. I even have how you can customize the key map if you don't want the Control B. And then down at the bottom, I have some information about how you can get some help. Notably, you can use check health here. If you're having any issues, use check health. And then there's also a verbose flag here if you'd like more details. Set that to true. That'll especially help with the Copilot provider. It'll actually show you the entire response it gets back from Microsoft for all the configuration for Copilot. And then if you could do me a favor, if you try this out, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about it? Are there any things you dislike? For example, is there some part of the configuration that doesn't feel right? Or some part of the behavior that doesn't feel right? Or even better, if you could think of another part of Neovim where this would help out. So instead of just the command line, could we plug this in somewhere else? That's kind of why I left the name of the plugin as just Ask OpenAI, because I feel like there are probably other things that we could ask for help with. So if you come up with anything, let me know in the comments down below.